Good morning. Welcome to Coffee with the Commissioner, episode 4. I'm delighted to be joined today by the world famous, or certainly Eston famous, Rita Richardson. Good morning, Rita.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming along to talk to me today. Before we get into the actual podcast itself, do you want to tell us a little bit about you? Who is Rita Richardson?
I'm Rita Richardson. I was born in Grangetown, on Attlee Road in 1968. So, I'm getting on. I have 10 brothers and sisters, and I'm number 10 of the 11 of us. So that's why I've got this loud voice. I've always had to shout to be heard, So I'm one of 11. My mum and dad, my dad worked down British Steel, my mum didn't work, typical family. Went to the St. Peter's School, absolutely loved being part of the TS6 community. Really happy memories of childhood. We weren't rich, my dad died when I was 15. So like when I talk to my brothers and sisters about things, my oldest brother, he's 16 years older than me, so him being brought up is completely different to how I was brought up. Because, my dad had died, his dad hadn't, and I was still going through those teenage years. But, I don't feel sorry for myself, at all, because I didn't miss out on love or anything like that.
Proudly representing the Cleveland Fire Brigade sweatshirt today. How long have you worked with them then?
So it's coming up to 5 years for Cleveland Fire Brigade, and I have never not had a job that I haven't loved in my life. I've never not got up on a morning and thought, don't want to go to work. One day I was just looking. I don't even know why. I was probably had a long dinner, and I looked online and I saw this job at the fire brigade, and I thought, oh my gosh, look at that job. And when you see a job that's made for you,
and it's a very specific job you do.
Yes,
isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I work. It's the educational part. So I'm the school's education coordinator for Redcar Cleveland, for Cleveland Fire Brigade. So my district is Redcar Cleveland, and I looked at it and I thought, wow. Education, Eston Hills, obviously, the most fires. Like you said, my job's a specific job. This job is I go into schools and work with children, deliver sessions on deliberate fire setting, misusing fire. And I also work with children one-to-one who do misuse fire. So it could be anything from setting a fire, an antisocial, deliberate fire in the park or up the hills, right to somebody who's been frightened in a fire. So we give fire safety education. That's what it is, fire safety education. And I just thought, when I looked at it, this was made for me. Did not even think for 1 minute I'd get it, and went for it. And I got it. And I remember saying to my boss, Helen, I've just got another job. And we all just hugged each other, and she was going, are you going? And I said, I think I have to, don't I? Because they've put the faith in me, and then it's just been fantastic since then.
Yeah.
I suppose my line manager, he probably says, no, it hasn't, Rita, just, because I never stop, I'm always all over, And
I think that's what you are. Every time I've met you, you are always 100 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And like you said, both in work and outside of work and things like that. But the last couple of years hasn't really been easy for you. You've had some personal challenges the last couple of years as well, haven't you?
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was a massive shock. It was just off a routine mammogram. I just got to the age where they say go for a mammogram, and I'd just gone and it just popped up on me. It had a massive effect on me. The year before, I just lost my sister. She'd had breast cancer, and then it had come back as secondary cancer. So it was not nice. It massively affected me and affected my confidence. People say when you get cancer, I had so much love, so much support from people, and you get this. You're a warrior. You can do this. And I was like putting quotes on my Facebook like you do. Hey, today I'm getting through. I can do this. But inside, I wasn't feeling that. You put on this persona for people that yep, I'm this warrior. And I remember after finishing my radiotherapy, coming home and everybody's going, oh, yeah, you're going to have celebration. And I went, oh, and I just said to my husband, I'm going to bed. And I just sat and cried. It was like, God, sorry, I'm a bit upset here.
Don't worry about it.
And I was just like, it's over now. And I thought that was it over in my head. That was it over. Anyway, I can't even fault the fire brigade. They were absolutely awesome, and the support you get from the services there were out of this world. So I remember, like, maybe a few weeks later, being in my dressing gown and not going anywhere, and my sister-in-law came to my door, and she said, well, it was a Sunday, I was upstairs, my husband was at work, and I remember thinking, if he was at work, I wasn't getting dressed, only getting dressed to go to work, because in your uniform, you're a different person. I was Rita the fire lady in my uniform. And I remember my son shouting, Mum, Sue's at the door. And I came down, and my sister-in-law stood in my front room, and I'm in my husband's dressing gown. My hair stuck to my head. It was a Sunday afternoon, 2:00. And I just thought, what's going on? I bundled her out of the door. She gave me these chocolates, and I says, right, thanks, yeah, I'll see you. And that's when I knew I needed help. And that's when I got support from work with counselling and things like that. And from then, it's just been fantastic. Obviously, the cancer's gone. It's absolutely fine, but it is like a big, thing on your shoulder, waiting for it, But it's absolutely fine. And since then, it has left me with social anxiety. And anybody who knows me, I have ADHD. Everybody who knows me knows I do not have social anxiety. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked that I felt the way I did. I can go out and I can stand up in an assembly in front of 500 kids, and I can, and I can just say give an assembly unprepared. However, if you ask me to go and have a drink with you, or at the pub, we'll go out for tea. I can't do that if it's planned. My heart races, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I am.
And that's got to be incredibly tough, because just take a moment.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it. Take as long as you need. That's incredibly tough, because for you to do the job you do, it is, you are in the spotlight all the time. You are front facing. There is always somebody in front of you, whether that's one young child or whether that's 500 kids in an assembly. You are always in that spotlight, aren't you? So, what you talked about counselling and things like that. What advice would you give to people who because I know we talked previously. I know a lot of people that, on the surface, are these bulletproof individuals, and then for rightly or wrongly, everybody who sees that just assumes that either they're fair game to have pops at, or they don't need support, or they don't need help. What would you say to people who are behind those doors, when that bedroom door's closed, when they've got their dressing gowns on? What would you say to people who feel they have that type of anxiety? Would you absolutely advocate going and finding that support like you went and found it?
Yeah, I would. Counselling was unbelievable. Until this time, I'd never had counselling before, and it was something that somebody else always had, or and
there's a stigma attached to it,
absolutely,
isn't there? Yeah.
And I am an advocate for counselling now. It took me back. I'd experienced over COVID and just before as well. I'd lost about 5 members of my family, from different things, and I'd just built that up because I'm back at work the next day, because we think that's how we deal with it.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you do need other help, and there's nothing wrong with talking to a counsellor. Talking to a counsellor took me back to when I was 15-year-old, and I lost my dad, and that's when, at 15, that's when I was taught how to deal with death. What did I do? I went back to school the week after. My mum wasn't well. Obviously, she'd lost her husband. We just got on because we didn't want to upset our mum, and that's what we feel. We just get on.
Yeah.
But going to counselling has shown me that I don't have to get on. You know what? If I need a day when I need that to take that time out and just have a couple of hours. Well, I'll do it, and go to the social anxiety. I'm not feeling guilty anymore for not being able to come to your party or to go out for a meal with you or to, because it's about me. It sounds really selfish, that, doesn't it? But for so long, we just get on. We've got to protect us, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've got to protect us. And counselling showed me that. Yeah. I had 2 lots of different counselling. I had the bereavement counselling, which helped and showed the other with all of the deaths I'd gone through. And then I had the anxiety counselling, which showed me talked to me about dealing with things. If I'm hiding away, I have to look at the reasons why I'm hiding away, and so I have these little choices that I have, and some of them I've got to push myself, but some of them, I can say no.
Okay.
We've gone right off here, haven't we?
That's an incredibly powerful story. No, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. It is difficult, and I do know people who suffer from anxiety, and your story is, for me, the more we can get stories like that out there, and the more we can encourage people to open up and talk to somebody, even if whether it's a friend, whether it's family. And you're right, sometimes talking to somebody outside of the family is really, really helpful. Somebody who's not going to judge, not going to, because I think sometimes when you talk to family members, when you talk to friends, their natural instinct is to agree with you and try and tell you everything's going to be all right. Whereas sometimes you don't need somebody to tell you it's all right. You need somebody to tell you what might help you and where that might be coming from. So thank you for that. But let's move on.
Yes, oh gosh.
Yeah. So Friends of Eston Hills.
Oh yeah.
The other big love in your life.
Yeah, Friends of Eston Hills. Like I said, I grew up in Grangetown. Like every TS6 kid, TS7, around this area. Every one of us, it's rite of passage, Friends of Eston Hills. It's our playground. We went up there. That's your life. You'd get up. Your mum would send you up the hills with your brothers and sisters for the day, and then you'd have to come back for tea. You wouldn't see them, and it's played a massive part. Looking back in my life, I can tell you like stories from people I've met going up there, and it just everything. I just loved it. And we started off the Friends of Eston Hills, and it's quite mad how it started off. I'd signed up to go to university, right? I'd signed up to go to university, and I remember going, and it was the 17th of September, and I know because it was my birthday, and I went to university, and this first session, and when I got there, I thought, gosh, what am I doing here? Me, this Grangetown kid, like I left school with CSEs, and here I am, And I was texting my husband from there going, oh my God, I don't know whether the rest is for me. I came home, he'd gone out on nights, and I was sat there in the house. It was my birthday, so I thought, I'm going to have a glass of wine, which I did. And then I'm just on Facebook scrolling away, and I saw this post somebody had put on saying, oh, the Eston Hills are for sale. Obviously, I'd had 2 glasses of wine by then.
The Eston Hills were for sale?
Yeah. And it's mad because we all thought the hills belonged to us. That's what people think. The hills are ours. But if you look up at the hills from say, Whale Hill, top of Whale Hill, Eston, the left-hand side of the hills, from the monument side, they're all privately owned. The right-hand side is like council. There's little pockets over there that are privately owned. But I always thought it was all the councils, it was just our hills. And so that's what shocked me. But there it was, a for sale sign, and an estate agent saying all these parts of Eston Hills were for sale. So, like I said, 2 glasses of wine turned into 3. I set this little group up on my Facebook, mortified, like going, oh, the hills are for sale. And went to bed. I got up in the morning, there was 1,000 people who joined, all going, the hills are for sale, oh, what's going on? I had no idea what, so I told my sister and my friends, and you see, my friend, I know they won't mind me telling you this, my friend Glyn, she lost her son to cancer, and she lived in Eston under Nab, and James was a great friend of all of us, her son James, And going up the hills and sitting on the nab was his safe place. He used to sit up there. He was only a teenager, you know, when he first was diagnosed. And he would sit up there and think about the world, you know, and he could look down. And then she lost him. So that was her safe place. And all I kept thinking was, gosh, what if they stole the nab? What if Glyn can't get up there for a safe place? And so that little group of us, we got together and we decided we'd have a go by in the hills. And it sounds mad, doesn't it? We'd have a go by in the Eston Hills. So thinking back now, it was mad. And we did. And it wasn't just us; it was the whole of the community, the whole of Teesside, and beyond. We got money from Australia. We got people were amazing. They gave us money on our dream, on nothing really. We were saying, "Oh, we'll buy the hills. Give us some money." And
how much did you need to raise?
Well, when we looked, it was like $250,000. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, I know, $250,000. We got. We ended up raising about 15.5 grand, I think. But what had happened was the hills were for sale in plots.
Yeah.
So we said, right, okay, we'll just buy the nab, the Eston nab, the big, you know, the focal point. We'll buy the nab, but we only had 15.5 grand. Give Craig his due. He worked really hard, and we
did a film and all sorts in there. I remember reading it. And
yeah, we did. And you know, he hounded the guy, and it went to putting the bid in, you know, to buy bidding process, and other people bid for it. But we just said to the guy, you know what, we're going to give it back to the public. It's for the people. And he accepted our 15.5 grand for an £80,000 plot, and we couldn't believe it. And then we got the bought it, signed the deeds, and then we've handed it back to public, you know, to public land now. However, since then we look after it, and not just the nab. We look after all of the hills. We're up there, you know, reporting. We litter pick. We're involved in the schools, going in doing talks. We have members of our group who do walks, you know, up the hills and they talk about the mushrooms. We have David from our group. He goes in local schools to do the history of the hills and do art with them. And it's just great. It's just gone from there.
It's mad that something so iconic can be privately owned.
It's madness.
I think that's a brilliant thing you've done. Yeah. And you touched on there about reporting. So I know you report a lot of antisocial behaviour, not just you personally, but as a group, and lots of different agencies, the council, the PCC's office, the police, local community groups, over the years have always tried to come up with some type of solution to really ensure that the hills are safe for the people that want to use them pleasurably. And but that's a challenge, isn't it? So what type of things do you see up there?
It is a massive challenge, and going back to the reason why I took the job I do is because of that, you know, so I can work with those kids and let them know that the hills belong to them. And so we stopped that, right, lighting fires. But yeah, what do we see up there? Gosh, the quads, the motorbikes. It's scary up there when you're walking up the hills. You know, we do litter picks, and I remember one Sunday morning we were doing a litter pick, and we counted 46 bikes and quads. Yeah, coming past us. And if you're walking up there and you're just a family, there was a big group of us. There was about 12, 13 of us. But imagine if you're just a woman and 2 kids and you're walking up the hills and there's bikes flying over. That is a scary thing. It stops people going up our hills. During COVID, I think the people of TS6 found a love again for Eston Hills because we couldn't walk far, and that's where you walked, you know. We run the Friend of Eston Hills Facebook page, and during COVID, it was absolutely full of the most amazing photos of families enjoying picnics, people saying, this is the first time I've taken my kids up there. You know, it was wonderful. But we seem to be losing that again because it's getting, the bikes are back up there. And I know you're doing a lot of work on it, and we have seen a decrease, you know, with the bikes locally. It's and I get that the kids of TS6, like I said, I get that those kids think that they have a right to take the bike up there. I grew up with those kids who
Yeah.
used to go up there, but it's a massive difference now to I don't know, Joey down the road who used to go on his knackered old under. Now we have organised groups going, and it's not just tier 6.
Yeah.
You know.
And we've done some work together on the Back on Track programme. And how do you think, from somebody who sees that firsthand on a regular basis, and with your other hat on, you're looking to work with young people to try and educate them, the Back on Track programme, which is aimed at educating people around motorbikes, how do you think that's going to benefit in the long run?
Back on Track is amazing, and pat on the back for supporting that. It is absolutely amazing. Graham spoke to me a couple of years, and Graham is the police intervention coordinator who works at Redcar for Cleveland Police, and he told me about that, what he'd done over in Durham, and I was like, that is fantastic. And he's taken these kids who were just on the cusp, who they're going. There might be the ones who are just on the back of a bike now, on the front of a quad, and they're just getting, there. And he's taken them and he's showing them, well, everything about bikes and the safety side. He has the blood banks in. We have them at the Fire Brigade, where we cut them out of cars. If they're not getting cut out, we'll show them how they're getting cut out of cars. I'll go in and talk about the effect on antisocial behaviour on the community. We have the counselling there. One of the things that stuck with me, I think you were there, Steve. You were handing out certificates. Was when Graham said that one of the boys had said to him, "I now know how." And I think the boy who was there, the young person who was there, he said he now looks behind when he's on his bike.
A lifesaver.
And that could save his life. We've lost too many young people on bikes, just looking behind. Even though he might not stop riding bikes, him looking behind is saving his life. Yeah, it's a fantastic initiative. Absolutely, well done on that one. It's really good. Well
Thank
done,
you.
Graham. Who's
Graham's been brilliant.
Graham's worked really hard.
And like I said, he's not just done that. He's brought in organisations like yourself. He's brought in other people. So you touched on antisocial behaviour. Now you've got a great background in antisocial behaviour, and Cleveland's now one of the trial areas for the government's new antisocial behaviour schemes. And I know we chatted briefly on that. How do you think we really start to tackle antisocial behaviour? Is it enforcement? Is it education? Is it youth work? What do you, with your background as a sort of an expert in the subject, how do you think we really get to grips with antisocial behaviour in Cleveland?
I don't know about an expert, but just a mum. Antisocial behaviour. Do you know, it's always got to start at the bottom, grassroots for me. Grassroots, like with the Fire Brigade, for example, we are having we've had trouble with children and young people throwing stones at our firefighters. The antisocial behaviour that way. And what we've been doing in Redcar Cleveland is our firefighters have been going in the local schools and having lunch with the kids. And although they're not, doing any specific work with them, the kids are getting to know them. And so now when they're out on the estate, they're coming up to them and saying, "Wow, remember me?" And chatting to them. So grassroots for me is the key route. We don't want, like I know we said earlier, we don't want to criminalise kids. We don't want that. We don't want to give them, a bad reputation.
Do you think they need? I think for me, what I'm hearing is they need role models. They need to be able to look up to people like you and others like you. And there are so many passionate people, both in the fire brigade, in the police service, in the ambulance service, within teaching, just great people out there generally. And I think some of these kids do need a role model and somebody that they can look up to.
Absolutely, and we've got them in the community. I have a friend, Adam, who lives in Grangetown, and he was the archaeologist who worked on the Eston Hills on the Ice and Fire project. And when I go into schools and I'm talking about, in my previous role when I worked for the youth service, I would tell the kids about Adam if I'm in Grangetown Primary or Whale Hill Primary, and I would say, you can be whatever you want. Our kids need to know they can be whatever they want. Like, I'd say Indiana Jones. Adam's like Indiana Jones, and he came from Grangetown. Isn't that great? And they do need good role models, because we're just going to see the same cycle going round and round again. you know,
Yeah.
and we do need good role models. They need to be given the chance to shine. They do.
So, and I think you are an excellent role model for young people across
Thank
Redcar
you.
Cleveland. So, thank you so much
thank
for
you.
coming along today. Thank you for sharing. I know some of that was tougher than you maybe thought it was going to be this morning, but we really appreciate that. I'm sure the listeners will really appreciate that. I think if anybody listening to this podcast wants to get involved, whether you're a TS6 resident, you want to get involved with Friends of Eston Hills, they do some fantastic work. They're always looking for good people to come along and support them, whether that's physically or just on social media. Or there's so much you can do, and I think we need more of that. And I think if every area had their own Friends of Eston Hills, for the right reasons, driven by the right people, I think we'd live in a much better area. So thank you very much for coming along today.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody that's listening. You've been listening to me, Steve Turner, Police and Crime Commissioner for Cleveland, Rita Richardson, and our Coffee with the Commissioner podcast. Thank you very much, and speak to you all again soon.